and then focus on mastering Winlink and at least one HF routine, such as the 75, 40, or 20-meter regional nets. Hey guys, I had the chance to talk to some really cool people here in Texas, and they were explaining that when a crisis hits, whether it's a hurricane ripping through the Gulf, a wildfire racing across the hill or countryside, or even a winter storm freezing out the grid, here emergency communications and their operators don't wait for ideal conditions. They activate fast, they fill gaps, and keep the mission moving. But then they were saying that, showing up with the radio isn't enough. Here they mandate that their operators be credentialed, trained, and properly equipped to plug into the state's complex EmComm ecosystem. And with all that, they don't want any friction or delay. So they were kind of explaining that this isn't a hobby radio here. The way they look at it, it is mission critical infrastructure. And in Texas, we know that the terrain is vast and their threats are absolutely layered. And here, readiness isn't optional. It is the absolute price of being resilient. So these guys were explaining that the operators deploying for emergency communications in Texas, they follow a practical checklist just to ensure readiness and effectiveness. So things like before deployment, before you ever get to go out and do anything, they make sure that all their guys have completed the ARES or RACES registrations, that they have passed any required background checks, and carry the proper photo ID and agency credentials at all times. They say that they want their guys, it should be kind of standard, but ICS trained, NIMS protocols, and have local standard operating procedures with hands-on practice using message formats like that ICS 213, as well as radiograms. As far as their personal kit goes, they were saying, hey, a dual band HT, VHF and UHF, and if possible, a portable HF transceiver, preferably 100 watts, but even a QRP rig with an amplifier would be good. And with that, some high-capacity batteries and a solar charging option as well. As far as antennas we're talking about, they said hey, mag-mount antennas, portable dipoles, or even end-fed types, as well as roll-up HF operations with coax cables and spares. And then power accessories like Anderson connectors, cigarette lighter adapters, inverters, solar panels, and battery monitors, they consider absolutely crucial. For digital modes, they were saying that, hey, having laptops and tablets loaded with Winlink, VERA, and FL Digi, plus a TNC or sound card interface, and USB cables are must-haves. Having a toolbox with a multi-tool, coax connectors, tape, zip ties, maybe masked hardware, and a flashlight should also be packed alongside with the personal gear suited to the weather as well as hydration needs, and even having printed ICS forms and a trauma kit. That way, when you arrive at the EOC or shelter, priorities include just quickly establishing net control, setting up a situational whiteboard, and creating a formal message intake point, testing the HF link to the regional net, and then focusing communications on life safety and critical infrastructure. For their training and skill development for their emergency communications operators, specifically to Texas, they were saying that they center on building core competencies and fostering operational readiness, because those foundational skills should include things like antenna deployment, power management, knowing about HF propagation, also being good at, digital messaging via Winlink and APRS operations, net control procedures, and proficiency in the ICS-based messaging. And to help with that, they're doing regular drills such as monthly nets, weekly traffic nets, and full-scale multi-agency exercise with OEMs and NGOs help. And with all that, it helps just build trust and validate the procedures and expose any operational gaps. As far as their formal education, that's supported through credentialed courses like the ARRL's Emergency Communications Training, all of the NIMS ICS courses, most specifically like 100, 200, 700, the Skywarn Spotter certification, and local EOC orientations. And to accelerate new learning, new operators are encouraged to pair with a seasoned net controller for like a ride-along type thing during high-tempo activations and drills, which gains them some real-world experience and confidence in these, what we know are dynamic environments. Emergency communications deployments in Texas, they face several operational challenges, each requiring proactive mitigation strategies. Things like frequency congestion is addressed by having and predefining primary and alternate channels, which we talk about all the time as far as like pace planning stuff. Also implementing directed nets and enforcing priority protocols to maintain order and clarity. We saw that a lot with Hurricane Helene. Interoperability with non-ham radio systems is achieved through the use of gateways, patching setups, or liaison radios with operators trained in plain language procedures just to ensure seamless communication across agencies. The power and fuel limitations are mitigated by prioritizing solar and battery combinations for sustained operations, as well as by staging fuel caches to support all the mobile units. As far as any legal and privacy concerns, those are managed by adhering to the standard amateur radio regulations, which is kind of hard because you have to avoid encryption, but it is achieved by following HIPAA and PII guidelines when relaying sensitive medical information. But this is often achieved mostly by routing such traffic to the appropriate authorities. One of the other issues they were talking about is to combat volunteer fatigue and improve retention. The teams will rotate personnel, provide for their lodging and their meals, and formalize rest cycles, and then conduct formal after-action reviews to support long-term engagement and operational resilience. Now, I did ask, like, hey, if you were in Texas and wanted to get into this right away, they were saying that to immediately be useful in Texas, into the EmComm scene, start by joining the local ARES group and subscribing to your county's Office of Emergency Management's email list. And by doing so, that would ensure that you're, number one, registered as an emergency volunteer, and also that you're looped into any key updates. And then they were saying, hey, then, once that's all done, conduct a thorough check of your deployable kit and document all of your gear, and also see what you have as far as, any spares. Also adhere to or start, making yourself familiar with the SOPs, and maybe even print them on a single reference card so you have them. And then focus on mastering Winlink and at least one HF routine, such as the 75, 40, or 20-meter regional nets, and practice sending those ICS 213 forms to build fluency in formal message traffic. Also, check out the monthly practice activations on with the nets with local agencies to sharpen your net control and liaison skills in real-world scenarios. And finally, if you're starting a team, get an MOU established, or at least find out who the contact points are with your neighboring counties and NGOs to clarify your roles, their roles, any expectations, and activation protocols before any incident occurs. And this proactive approach ensures that you're not just ready, but most importantly, that you're relevant the moment that you're needed. So in closing, kind of going through all this, the biggest takeaways here was that the guys here in Texas, they were telling me that, they treat ham emergency comms as a force multiplier, not as a last resort. Having those pre-established relationships, conducting regular drills, having interoperable procedures, and deployable power-resilient gear turn a handful of skilled operators into the backbone of continuity for communities all across Texas. So that's all I got to you for now. I'm having a good time here. We're going to do, at least one more video on all this. So I got an idea in my head now. So with that, I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one. Be safe.